This is a review of how to find the mean and standard deviation of a standard uh, probability distribution, no special kind, just a regular probability distribution, and how to do it in Excel easily and quickly. You start by putting in your X in the first column. Those are your values of your random variable. Then you put in the probability that that random variable will occur for each one of those items. Make sure that they sum up to 100. You do that by clicking in this cell here, typing equals sum. Now, what I'm showing you, there's all different ways to do it. You may have learned something else in Excel. I'm just trying to go through some of the basic ways if someone isn't familiar with them. And what you do then is you put and you get the parentheses. You could type in the numbers, but I don't have to. I put my mouse here. Notice it's a big fat cross. I press and I hold and drag down. You get what I call dancing ants. And it now references cell B2 through with a colon B7. Now you could type that in as well. And then I put a parentheses around it and press enter. Came up with 1. So I know that my probability distribution is a valid probability distribution because the sums is 1, and each one of them is somewhere between 0 and 100. So I'm all good to go. The next step is to find the mean. The mean is a weighted average, if you will. It is the value of the variable, that value of X, times its probability. Right now, I put them in here. All you need to do is type equals, and you want to select that X, or you could type it in, A2 times, you want the probability to matches that in that row, which is B2, and you press enter, and you get 0. Well, that makes sense because if you multiply 0 times a number, you get 0. But what you can do is you don't have to type that in every single time. You can take your mouse, and you'll notice down here in the lower right-hand corner, there's a little teeny plus sign, a little teeny square. If you place your mouse over the square, notice how the mouse changes shape. If you press down while you have that shape and drag, you will get all of the values. And then all you need to do is add them. Well, I need to add the formula. And what happens with Excel, if I copy a formula, the formula automatically readjusts. So if I put my mouse here and copy, it automatically adjusts and tells me that the mean of the average, or the mean of the X's, if I added these and weighted them all out, is 2.04. So that's the average of X's that I have. And that's how I get that. Now, once I get that number, I have now the mean. So this is the mean. Or sometimes it's called E of X. Oops. E of X. It would be helpful if I typed the right thing. E of X. There you go. Okay? That's what it's called. So now how do I get the standard deviation? Standard deviation involves some more calculations, but again, in Excel, it can be pretty easy. What I'm looking for here is I need to take A2 minus C8. And so that makes sense. I take X minus the mean, and I get an answer. Now, notice that X is 0. If I subtract 2.04 from it, I get a negative number. Now I copy this formula like I did the last one, but I got some weird answers. Wonder why? Well, I'll look at the formula. Well, when I look at this formula, it's not 1 minus this cell. It's supposed to be 1 minus this cell. So what happens is, and I'm going to delete these cells now. Okay. What happens is that when you do this formula, the C8 needs to be the constant. So when you copy formulas, it automatically readjusts for rows and columns. Well, C8 does not need to be readjusted. So what you're going to do is you're going to put in front of the C a $, because I don't want to adjust the row, and nor do I want to adjust the column. So I want to keep that steady. So now the first one is fine, and when I copy, they all come out correctly. In other words, 5 minus 2.04 is 2.96, and so on. And that checks. Okay. Then I need to take whatever's in column D and square it. So I no longer have negative numbers, and I'm going to put them all into square numbers. So I'm going to take, and squaring is a raised to the power. So I'm going to take that number and raise it to the power. And I do want my formulas to adjust for rows, so I'm not going to put any dollar signs there. And then I'm going to take the probability times this new number that I've created, which has made everything positive. And again, I do want to adjust for rows, so I will copy as is, and then I will add them up. And when I add them up, I'll put equals sum in parentheses. And I want to add these numbers, so I will highlight them. Notice the shape of my mouse. Enter. And that becomes the value that I'm looking for. Okay. So just so that you have that information, so the standard deviation then should be 1.47 or whatever the question asks you to round to. I hope you find this helpful and a way to more quickly find mean and standard deviation of a basic probability distribution.